welcome to How to Study the Major Prophets. And tonight's topics include the following. So right now we're in the introduction. Second, we're going to run some searches to see what books are in your library for studying the major prophets. And this will get us into recommended but not required resources. And then we've got a 10-step process we're going to take you through in how to study the major prophets. Now, even though there's only a handful of these books, these are some major books. Great length, long reading, not something you can just read quickly. So we're going to help you get organized. We're going to help you put them in chronological order, read the introductions and surveys. We're going to get into the details. We're going to show you how to organize your notes. We'll talk about highlighting and using the labeling feature in Logos. We'll do some searching for details. We'll help you understand the structure of each of these books, how to do that, and identify near and far prophetic fulfillment. And then also we'll end with step 10, identifying the major purposes and themes. So there is a lot to cover. Now, for those of you who are new, what is a purpose of a webinar? I'd like to help you set expectations here. First, it's to provide training for Logos Bible software. Second, it's to provide training so you can study the topic yourself. A topic like this and any other I've done, usually there's a lot more that can be covered than I can cover in a short time. So I'm going to give you the tools and the training so that you can go even further with areas of interest that you might have. Along the way, where it makes sense, we'll provide biblical insights related to our topic. We also, with the purchase of a webinar, we provide a personal book and manual to equip yourself. So let me show you what that looks like. Here it is opened up in my window, and I'll expand that. And as you can see, this is quite detailed. All my notes are in here, all my searches, all the collections, everything that we're going to be discussing tonight is in this very detailed personal book, and so you can see all the links to the various books we'll be talking about, and there are a lot of searches that you can run to study the major prophets, and we have all those embedded in the personal book. So that's included with the purchase of the webinar. Now, the webinar is going to be fast-paced because it includes a lot of information to increase the training value. But don't panic. Some of the items are designed for you to follow along, and some of them are designed for you to sit back and watch. All the webinars are recorded and edited for purchase and review. And once you download it, you own it for life, so you can watch as many times as you want. You can still pre-order the LearnLogos 7 training. We have the prices there. For the download, it's $55. The 32 gigabyte USB is $65, and the both option is $70. It's going to include over 1,000 videos, over 40 hours of training. And if you order today, you can not only take advantage of the special price, but we've already released about 20 hours of training online through a password protected portal. So you can actually start your Logos 7 training today with the pre-order. And then once all the videos are done, then we'll send out the final download links and start shipping the USB. So mid-April will be the final date for that. This has been a huge undertaking, and I'm thrilled that we're coming near the end. If you're interested in buying tonight's webinar, you have the link in the handouts, but you can also go to LearnLogos.com/buy webinar, and that'll take you to the pre-order page. You can order that and actually get the personal book tonight if you want that. That's already been uploaded and ready to go. We also have older training, so if you have not upgraded to version 7, you can still order 4, 5, and 6. You can see the links pretty straightforward. LearnLogos.com/Logos, and then just put the number in 4, 5, or 6. The pre-orders will be ready by this Sunday, so we'll start editing them tonight, tomorrow, through the next couple days, and then release that webinar for you, all edited by Sunday. Also, you can pre-order our How to Study the Bible and Prepare a Message with Your Computer. The order page there is LearnLogos.com/digital sword. Now, this is going to be over 200 pages, 14 chapters, and when you pre-order, you get both the print and the ebook together, and these two will be shipping mid-April. Also, we've got our 2017 live training schedule. You can go to LearnLogos.com/events. And if you have any topic ideas, hey, feel free to email me at webinars@LearnLogos.com. Now, what's coming up pretty soon? Next webinar, March 20th, How to Observe Any Biblical Text, Part 2. So we're going to pick up where we left off and give you more tools and more training on how you can more effectively observe the biblical text. Then in April 10th, how does Paul use the Old Testament? Then in May, how to study the spiritual disciplines. At the end of May, it's a long month, so we put both in there, 2 in the same month. Understanding the problem of evil, suffering, and persecution in the Bible. And then Monday, June 26th, who is the word of the Lord? And there's still more training throughout the rest of the year, but these are the next webinars coming up. So what I'd like to do to just kind of get started is let's see what's in your library right now. Before you buy any book from Logos, you should see what resources you do have that can already help you study this incredible topic. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to the search at the top left. So locate that magnifying glass, click on the magnifying glass. Now, Logos has several search engines built in. You have the basic, Bible, media, clause, morph, and syntax. For this search, we want to click on basic. So go ahead and click on basic. Now there's a special search phrase, and this is in the handout. It's large text major prophets or heading major prophets. Now for those of you who have attended before, you know that I love these two types of searches. The large text and heading will look at just those. Anything that's in Logos that's tagged as a large text or heading typically is at the start of a chapter or a start of a major division. And therefore, everything that follows is really about that topic. So let me run the search and so I can demonstrate what this looks like. Now, the other settings you want to make sure you have is search all text and search all resources. So we'll go ahead and press enter or click that white arrow in the circle at the right. Now, library results will be different because everyone's library is a little bit different. But here's the key behind the large text and the heading search. I'm just going to click on this one, the literary structure of the Old Testament. You'll notice that right here, the chapter is called Major Prophets. So by searching on the large text or the heading, I'm taken right to a chapter that's all about one of the particular major prophets. In fact, this book actually has all of them. And we'll come back to this book in a little bit, but this is a powerful search. You'll get less results, but the results you get are actually the information that you're studying, the major articles, and that's what you want. You know, if you don't do the large text or heading, and I'll just demonstrate that right now, if I were to remove that and just search on major prophets, I get back over 1,600 results, and now, sure, I'll get back the headings, but then I get places where it's mentioned in an article, and it may just be a passing reference and not a significant article. So that's a real important search technique to find the best information quickly. And as you know, Logos is great at finding you information, but it's also great at overwhelming you with too much information. And this search is a great way to eliminate unnecessary hits. Okay, so that's the first search that can help you find major articles on the major prophets. Now, let's do this second search. It's a little more information here, but here we're actually searching on the headings and large text of each of the major prophet books. So we've got Isaiah, large text and heading. We've got Jeremiah, Ezekiel, and Daniel. Now, I didn't do Lamentations at this point. We'll do that later. So this is just searching on them and their specific names. And this will bring back background information and other information related to these. And so you can see here, here's an article on Jeremiah and Ezekiel, and then Daniel right thereafter. So this can be very helpful. Here's a good example, section 4, the major prophets, Isaiah, Jeremiah, Ezekiel, and Daniel. And it begins with book 23, the prophecy of Isaiah, with 4,000 questions and answers on the Bible. So these two searches are very useful in quickly finding out if your library is adequate for you to study the major prophets. And so definitely take advantage of that. Now, in the personal book, I've also included individual searches for each of the prophets. And so you can see that. I'll just let's run Daniel to mix this up a little bit. So I'm going to select that from the book. And you can see the search is very basic. Large text, Daniel, or heading Daniel. Very straightforward. And now we can focus on just those results on Daniel. With these many prophets, it's very easy to get overwhelmed, and you'll need to work through them one prophet at a time. The major books of the major prophets. Very important. So that's getting things set up. The next step, step 2, is putting them in chronological order. Let's back up a minute here and talk about some key questions when you're organizing the major prophets. And there's 4 key questions that you need to ask. First one is, which part of the kingdom did the prophets serve? This will be very useful in understanding who they are and where they served. The second question to help you in the chronology is, which king was reigning at the time the prophets served? Third, it is useful to know who were the major enemies of the Jews at their time. And then, when did the Jews return? Very important. Now let's back up. This particular book I found, it's Jason DeRushi, What the Old Testament Authors Really Cared About. Surprisingly, in there is this amazing little chart. In fact, let me right click and open in a floating window. This is one of the appendices, and here's the book. You can see it right there, What the Old Testament Authors Really Cared About, Survey of Jesus' Bible. Now, what's wonderful about this resource is the way it lays out a lot of details. Here we have the northern prophets, so that's all them in the light blue. Then we have the northern kings, those are in the dark blue. And then in the middle, we have the kings, including the day of the various exiles. So when northern prophets or northern Israel was exiled in 723 BC, we see the blue line end, and it's all white. Then we see below the southern kingdom, Judah. They weren't exiled fully till 586 with the temple being destroyed. And then both of them come back in the temple when they return. 516, the temple's rebuilt. Then there's the second and third returns, 458 BC and 444 BC. So this is really useful. And then here we have the southern kings in dark blue and the southern prophets in light blue. This resource has other charts and graphs that are very useful, but this is one of my favorite ones because it's very easy to read. There's a lot of charts in there in your Logos program. Not all of them are easy to read like this one. So let's just take Isaiah. We need to find Isaiah, and it turns out he is a southern prophet. I'm going to press the F8 button on the PC, and it gives you this drawing mode, which is pretty cool. And so we can actually circle or draw on the Logos screen. And if you have a scroll button on your mouse, you can actually change colors by doing that. When you want to draw, you just draw. When you want to get rid of it, you just press the escape. So there's Isaiah. Then we have Jeremiah. He's over here. Then we have Ezekiel. He's over here. And then we have Daniel over here. So what's fascinating to look at this, and this is something I want you to see. So we have Isaiah. Now, if you go straight up on the timeline, he's there before northern is taken away. He's there through the exiled northern, but he dies before southern is exiled. Very important. So part of his ministry is warning people. So Isaiah is really preaching future and letting them know and seeing the prophecies fulfilled. Now, what gets really interesting is the next one. So we have Jeremiah, and as you know, Jeremiah is there before the fall of southern. He's there through the exile and back and still alive as they return. Very important. Daniel, as we know, was there taken with the exiles, but he stayed on, but he did survive to see them return. Ezekiel, interestingly, is there before they leave. He's there all through the exile, but he dies right before the Israelites return to the land. See that there? In a way, I think God was being very gracious to Ezekiel by giving him these visions of a future because he physically would not return. Some of these timelines are so important to check because you don't discover these things unless you're looking at them in this kind of format. So very important to understand when these guys were alive. Look at all the kings that Isaiah served under. Jotham, Ahaz, Hezekiah, and Manasseh. And then Isaiah dies during the reign of Manasseh. Then we have Jeremiah. So we have some of the kings there. And then we have Daniel. As you know, he went through quite a few kings himself. And these are just the Israel ones, but he also dealt with the pagan ones too. And Ezekiel. So these guys knew the kings. They prophesied to them. These kings were not ignorant of what the Lord was about to do, why he was doing it. They had ample warning, but as we know, reading the scriptures, these guys, most of them did not repent, and the nation did not repent. And so off to judgment they went. So very useful. And then down at the bottom, just notice we got the united, divided, the exile, and the initial restoration. Very helpful graph there. One of the questions is, which part of the kingdom did the prophets serve? There you go. Now, I also have a search here that's a little bit complicated, but it's still very useful. So I'll leave it up here. I'm going to search all my resources instead of just the journals. Now here's what I'm doing. I'm doing profit, then a space, all caps the word near, space, then in parentheses, timeline, comma, chronology. Now when you put something in parentheses and you separate it by a comma, that's like an OR statement in Boolean, which basically means this: look for profit near timeline, and then Logos runs a search, and then it runs another search, profit near chronology. So it's a way of getting two searches done for the price of one search. Then that's all in parentheses, all capital letters, and then pound image. Pound image helps you find images. Now there is a media search, but these don't always come up when you run certain searches. So this pound image is just a different alternative approach.